Yeah, it's Father Time. I've been playing around with this GSX here at Kennedy and on UPS. It just got de-iced. It's like 20 degrees Celsius, 68 degrees Fahrenheit. I just had to do it. I got all sorts of things missing, like a door open. I don't know what I'm doing. Having a good time, though. I thought I'd do a North Atlantic crossing and pause it, accelerate it. Gotta be honest, sounds like my computer might be getting ready to crash, but let's give it a shot. Here we are at Kennedy going to London Heathrow. I'll VATSIM it, why not? I don't think anything's active here at Kennedy. Uh, I loaded the on SimBrief. I loaded the flight plan in. Let me show it to you. Here it is. Um, UPS 400. It's become my new mantra. These are the North Atlantic crossing routes. We're not on one. We're on what we call a random route. It's when you're not on one of the defined routes. They change every day. Eastbound, then they close those down, do them westbound to keep separation between them. They even have half tracks in between them now to keep them even tighter. That's how accurate they are. We'll talk a lot about that. We'll talk about diversions. We'll talk about handoffs, getting your clearances, moving between sectors. I got a little presentation set up for you. But right now we're going UPS 400 from the cargo area in UPS. We're actually at the KLM cargo area. I went there because they had a bunch of UPS trucks there. I'm sure UPS has its own facility somewhere, but this is JFK to London Heathrow. Manchester's the alternate. 777 freighter, 33,000 feet initially. Cost index is 170, which is high. I'm going fast. We'll talk about the rest later. That's our route of flight, and we're filed on VATSIM. We'll see. Activate, execute. Let's see if it's in there. Yeah, it's in there. Okay, there. Supposedly a runway 22. Let me just see if VATSIM's up, guys. What I found out is you've got to not do that. You've got to come in here. One of my guys straightened me out on this, and I've got to minimize. That's my presentation's hidden behind there. I'm going to close it all out. Get this closed out. I'm going to open up vPilot in Administrator. Between that and open up P3D in Administrator, I'm able to, and I'm going to connect over here. I'm able to, but it doesn't accept a freighter. Hold on a second, move this over. So let's connect, see if there's anything going on here at Kennedy. Give it a second. Probably not. It wasn't. I did VATSpy before this. Heathrow had a bunch of servers, but we're not going to be there for 6 hours. VATSpy said Kennedy did not. Nope. Okay, so nothing. All right, we'll just put that over here. And we'll come back in here. Let's get our SimBrief ready behind the scenes. We'll get our little presentation ready. Little surprise for you. Coming up from Father Time. Got our little Kennedy stuff going on here. Trucks bouncing around everywhere. Let's see if we can get rid of all that stuff. You ready? All right, so let's go up here, and I'm going to open up behind the scenes here. GSX. You guys are helping me a lot. I really appreciate it. Add-ons. If I can get there. GSX. Menu. Operate the stairs. Put that up there. Let's close some doors then anyway. Let's go back in here. I got all sorts of... I probably shouldn't have done any of this, right? Release ground power. Dual jet plugs. Chocks are set. I'll remove the chocks because we're going to park the brakes. Menu. Actions. Doors. Close all. We'll arm all in a minute. Menu. Actions. I should do this for you guys. Oh, let's see. Ground connections. We got that all done. Return. Service vehicles. Disconnected. Return. Ground operations. Nope. Return. Ground maintenance. Nope. Return. And while we're here, let's do the fuel, guys. Let's go to our flight plan. Block fuels 124.7. 124. So we might as well because we're here. 124.7. This is a PMDG 777 freighter, as many of you know. PMDG freighter. Okay, I think, let's see what we got hanging out there. Oh, good. So we got the stairs on. I was playing around with it so much, I didn't know if I'd be able to get rid of it. So let's get rid of the stairs with GSX.
You need to set parking brakes to request ground services.
I thought I did. Would I disconnect them? All right, maybe they want chocks in. Maybe that's what they meant.
You need to set parking brakes to request ground services.
You know what? Maybe what I'll do is chalk it up, guys. Because maybe it's confused with the chalks out. Menu. Ground operations. Set the chalks. Let's try it now. It's saying parking brakes, but operate the stairs. Stairs operating. See if they're leaving. Yep, they're going down. I love this stuff. I love it. All right, so, all right, what we're going to try to do is get this all loaded. We're going off runway 22. There's no ATIS here at Kennedy at all. Nothing. So I already listened to it, and it said 22 left. So that's a 224 heading. We'll take off on Unicom, fly over to Heathrow. Runway heading 224. Let's load up the box. All right, so we, as you know, let me get that up here. We always start off on the ident page, 777-200 GE90s, which means we're going to have to start one engine at a time. Thank you to Commander Sweeper and Freaky D 777 for telling me all that. Position, I use the GPS coordinates. The IRSs are aligned. Routes in there. I can set the route does not load the SID or the star. And the star at Heathrow is Shira 1 Hotel. We'll make sure of that, guys. 1 hotel for 9 left. Shira 1 Hotel for 9 left. Good enough. And I'm not going to put in a transition right now. Okay, so let's do the route check. We'd walk through this together. These are the lat longs for the North Atlantic crossing. And that's that. We go through the legs. Remember, we come up here. We go to plan. And what you do, move this over a little bit, is as you walk through, you step, you check this against any SID. You have your JEPs open, make sure the SID points are correct, then you go to your flight plan. And what you're really checking is that center point on the nav display. Make sure there's no discontinuities. When you get to here for the route, for the North Atlantic crossing, you expand them. And the real aircraft, it will come up 49000.0, 05000.0 with no halves. We're checking to make sure there's no half points because they have half tracks nowadays. So you have to expand these. The PMDG 777 doesn't do that. Anyway, we'd walk all the way through, all the way to the end. We check the star, make sure those points are correct against our JEPs. It's going over Ockham. Probably going to have to hold at Ockham. Then we go to Prague. We check our 3043 distance against our flight plan, and the distance is 3067, and we just make sure that's reasonable. And the last thing we check is NAVRAD. Make sure nothing is hard tuned. If you would hard tune something by going to like VOR here, that would show up as a manual. It's not working. So PGG is not perfect, not perfect. But if you wanted to put in like 112.8, that would come up as a manual tune. So we're not going to do that. We're going to delete that so that it can auto-tune itself. But you want to make sure you're auto-tuned. That's all. All right, so we did that. We checked the roots. We checked the legs. A knit. We'll accept that. We got the correct fuel in there. Zero fuel weight. Zero fuel weight. Hope you guys want to see this. 475.3. We'll call it 475.4. 475.4 because it's got a little extra, right? Wind update. So we go to legs. Step. Oh, I got to go. If it's locked up, that's because it was in plan. Legs, route data, load. Thinking about it. I'm leaving for my son's wedding tomorrow morning, guys, so I won't be around for a while. Then you go descent forecast, you go to VNAV, you're on climb page. You go all the way to next page, not cruise, but descent, and you hit forecast, and you load the winds. Takes a second for the descent winds to come in. All these things are important, the winds, because your ETA is more accurate that way for your reporting, for Gander and Shanwick as you go across, and even for the people in the back, that affects their monitors. When you go to a place like New Delhi, the ETA is way off. You have to kind of manually throw the winds in. The box can't load them all, but London will load them all the way to London. Okay, so we did that. We're going to go flaps. We'll go flaps 5. It is a 200 airframe, even though it has the big engines. CG is 25, 50, 57, 66, and then next page. Always go to next page, and I'm going to set 1,000 here for the thrust reduction. Excel height 1,000 also, and the engine out is this there. But if you were going to in Europe and you had an NADP1 climb, acceleration to 3,000 above the ground, power reduction of 1,500. That's an NADP number 1. We're going to do an NADP number 2. Here we go. All right. So what did I say? The V2 is 166. Put that away. And go LNAV, VNAV. Now we can go at VNAV even though we're LNAV, even though we're in a heading, because the heading is on LNAV is 224. So I'll just keep it in LNAV. Although typically, you know what they do here? I'm going to go heading select. They give you a big left-hand turn initially, so I might as well start off in heading and come out of LNAV. So we've got a heading select, VNAV, arm, toga, and the engine out acceleration altitude is 800 AFL. So we're going to put that in down right here. There's no engine out procedure on runway 22. It's going to be an extremely thorough presentation. There is an event called Cross the Pond on VATSIM East. That'll be in October, I think. I'd like to fly it. I'll be retired. The West one took place on, I think, April 1st. I missed it. I wasn't ready anyway. So there's 810 engine out, because I didn't know what I was doing with VATSIM. Not that I do now. But you guys have helped me so much. Just recently, the Logans of the world and the Commander Sweepers, Central Dave and North Central Dave. I got a new guy here, Anant Madhuri, helped me a lot, in Guru KN. You guys, and there's more of you guys. Benchy is trying to get me going on Discord, which it's like dragging your grandfather through Discord. He's trying so hard. He's out in Denmark. What a guy. But anyway, he's helped me a lot. Hey, the altimeter, I did active sky is active. Normally I don't bother setting the local altimeter, but because it's wrong. But look at this. That's wrong. It's 10-foot elevation, so I have to set the correct altimeter. Yeah, that's what's been happening. So on VATSIM, I haven't been using Active Sky.
Airport information X-ray 1641 Zulu. Wind 233 at
I would guess if I,
facility greater than 20 miles.
it's going to be,
Sky condition, few clouds,
I'll bring it down to 10 feet,
4,800 scattered.
somewhere around 2940.
Temperature 82.6, altimeter 2940, ILS, runway 22 right, ILS.
I'm so proud.
22 left visual, runway 22
There's no VATSIM, so I'm not going to worry about the call sign. So we'd have ramp over here, guys. We'd have ground and then tower. And on this side, we put guard. I'll leave ATIS in for now. All right. How do we get our clearance here? I'll have to get it through VATSIM. Don't really know if I can get clearance. That's a good one. I've never taken off at a VATSIM without clearance. I wonder, I can't really do anything, can I? Huh. So I'll have to put in, I need to get a squawk. Can't really get clearance. So anyway, we'll just go as file. We'll take off on Unicom. And I'll put in 1200 for the squawk. And I don't know what to squawk, so we'll figure that out as we get going. This will be a good experiment, guys. I think I just turned off traffic.
Pass.
Yeah. Okay. So the box is loaded. We've briefed it up. Let's run the checklist. Oxygen's checked. Flight instruments are checked. Parking brake is set. Fuel control switches are cut off. This is fun. RTO. Let's look at the overhead, guys. I'm going to turn on the seatbelt sign for my cargo crew. Make sure everything else is in position, which it's not. I'm just going to quickly go down the columns. I did do a whole origination pre-flight checklist. By the way, if you don't know me, I'm a 777 captain. I retire in September after 36 years with the airline, 7 years with the Air Force Academy before that. I hail from Rhode Island originally. You'll notice the accent. Currently live in Connecticut. I have for the last 36 years, as I mentioned, based out of Kennedy, which is where we're at. Okay, so MCP up here. So we mentioned 166 V2. The flight directors are on both sides. Auto throttles are on. Liar, right? There we go. 224 is runway heading, which is our clearance. 5,000 is our altitude, which is our SID, although we'll be doing on Unicom. And hopefully, I'm hoping Kennedy comes up while I'm blabbing. And then MCP radios are set and checked. CDU pre-flight is completed. I talked about that. Takeoff speeds. I'm pretty methodical, guys. I go through this stuff, even though we already talked about it. Trim, it's going to be about 4.5. That's pretty close. We'll get that when the hydraulics come on. Beacon, yeah, I need to do that. In the real airplane, when you turn on, beacon when we push back, when you turn on an item, it goes green. You don't have to manually do it. Pretty cool. All right, so before start, checklist is complete. And we'll go push back. And let's go. One last check of VATSIM. Nothing. Hey, let me see something here. I'm going to bring VATSIM over here where you can see it. I was having to click on VATSIM on a vPilot in order to get the comm to go. So let me make sure I'm on the correct comm here. One, toggle up. And I guess I better go Unicom, right? So everyone can yell at me. Unicom. I don't hear anything yet. And I want to see if I used to have to click on here in order to activate my switch. Anant, Metaguri, and Guru KN. I could kiss you guys on the lips. I know that's disgusting coming from an old man, but that's look my no hands. Clicking on my hostage stick, not having to click on the vPilot. Guys, please keep the suggestions coming. We do have a new Discord that Benchy set up for me. If you guys wouldn't mind coming on the Discord. We have a really small 500 something people, but great community. We're helping each other a lot. Well, I'm not helping anyone, but you guys are helping me a lot. I love this stuff. So, okay. Checklist complete. I don't really need to call for pushback, I'm told, so as not to tie up the frequency. I'm going to take one look outside. Got to get rid of those shocks, right? I don't know if we got any of our cargo on the airplane. Trying to figure out how we're going to get out of here. I think we're going to go out this way to 22. And let me think here. Runway 22. Yeah, this way. And then probably out on Bravo. No. It's going to be left on Alpha. Left on Alpha. Hold short of Victor. That's what they would give us. All right, still no ground that I could see on B Pilot as I'm looking over here. So hate to do that with you guys, but I kind of got to get my proverbial act together before we do this. So I'm going to try to push out. Can I go straight back? We can do it. We can do it. Actually, a turn. Let's come back in. All right. We'll say we called. There's no ramp control over at cargo, UPS ramp, so we go to ground and just say, Kennedy ground, UPS 400 heavy at the UPS cargo facility. I'd like to push back start engines. Roger, we don't control that ramp, UPS. Roger, ground, I'm sorry. All right, so we're going to go up here. I'm going to do my before pushback flow, which is start on the right, wax on like that, right? That's so you don't get a fluid transfer. Fuel pumps are on. Do we have fuel in the center? We don't put it on if there's no fuel in the center. So let's go to the fuel page. There's no fuel in the center, so therefore we do not put on the center tank pumps. And we want to make sure these cross feeds are closed so we don't get an imbalance. And then I turn the beacon. So pumps, beacon. And the FO, we check the doors and make sure the slides are armed. 1 L&R for a ferry flight on a commercial airliner. For cargo, 1 L&R are armed. Usually all of them are armed. So that's armed. We check the door, secure. And I don't know if they do that on cargo's freighters. And the parking brakes are released. And let's do a pushback. And also we'll make sure we have the logbooks. These kind of some of the things we check. We actually have a checklist that covers it all. Let's do this. All right, so what I did is I went here, here, here. You can use GSX if you want. And I'm going to go .DI. It's standard left L turn. This is .DI where they push back, pull you forward a little bit. I want the nose to go to the right. That's good. If I want it to go left, I do this. Oh, I'm going to have to call a tug first. And then I could do that. Right, but I'm going to go right, nose to the right, and 90 degrees. And that's it.
Cockpit to ground.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead. We've been cleared for pushback and start. They want the tail to our left. Roger that. Ready for pushback. Tail to the left. Release brake, please.
Once he starts pushing, guys, I'll assume we're clear to start, okay? You guys remember when I did my live stream, I did all this. It was going real well. They changed runways twice. I didn't start the engines.
Here we go.
The flight controls didn't work. It was a comedy of errors. Okay, we're clear to start, we'll say, okay? And what we do, we're going to start one at a time on these big engines, which is the cargo birds. I'll talk to you about that in 1 second. The Rolls Royces on the 200s, you can start both at once. Freaky Dave and Commander Sweeper straightened me out on this. The 300s have the big engines, then have 110s. These cargos, I think, have 90s. GF90s, what did we decide on here? Let me see. They have GF90s, actually, 110s on them. Those are the big ones. You start them one at a time, the GEs. GEs you start one at a time. The Rolls Royces, you can start them both at once. So at my airline, we have our 200s all have Rolls Royces. We start them all both at once. The 300 we have GEs, actually this engine, and you have to start them one at a time. It not because it's a 300 versus a 200. It's because of the engine type. And Commander Sweeper and Freaky Dave straightened me out on that. I had a misunderstanding on that. So this freighter, even though it's a 200 airframe, has the big giant engines, so you can have a heavier payload. That's pretty cool. Let me look outside, make sure I'm not gonna hit anything. And that was it. They did the L shape. They pulled back. Now they're dotting the I. Right? All right, one engine started. We don't need any engine ice. Let's start the other one. Yeah, actually, you know what, guys? All right. Yeah, now. Don't say it. Don't say it. Now we're starting the left engine. We probably shouldn't have started it until now anyway. They should be stopping the pushing.
Complete. Parking brake set. Brake set.
All right. Wonder if they're disconnecting down there.
Steering pin is pulled. Watch for the salute and release from guidance on your right after flight.
All right, starting the other engine. Red tick disappears. We know we're fully started. I'm getting a big kick out of myself. Yeah, I fly 777 for a living, right? Man, oh man. Okay. Anyway, there we go. I apologize, guys, if it's the first time watching. I'm new to the flight sim world, very new, and it's about 3 months, and it's going real well. Getting a lot of help from my community. I get by with a little help from my friends, and I'm old, so I do say a lot of like corny things. It's gonna be hard on those of you who don't know me. But anyway, we're getting it done, aren't we, guys? We're getting it done. We're getting it done together. Got a bunch of great guys and girls helping me out here. All right, engines are both started. And I would say, let's go flaps 5. And we shut down the APU. We don't need engine ice. It's above 10 degrees. No visible moisture or ice or snow on the taxiway. Come back in here. I'm going to get the checklist going. Electrical generator off. That's probably because I was being spastic up here. Get those wipers going. APU's cooling down, parking brake set, passenger sign are on, auto brakes RTO, doors are manual. Okay, yeah, doors are manual because we don't have all the slides arms because we're a cargo flight. Just have to do one LNR. 6 seconds from stop to stop is that real slowly. I'm going fast. FO usually does the elevators and ailerons. Captain does the rudders. Rudder one way. That's my hostage stick right there. I want to check my rudder pedals, which disarms my parking brakes. So got it all going on today, don't I, guys? So let's go back in, run the checklist. Still going to straighten out my views. All right, checklist override. That's because I accidentally turned off my electrical pump. Don't need anti-ice. Recall is this button right up here. If you had cleared any problems, that would recall them. It'd come up here in amber. That's good. Let's recall flight controls to check. Ground equipment, we just checked outside. They're gone. And we can even do before takeoff, flaps are set. We do them before we taxi, after takeoff. Okay, so I'm going to put up, we usually take off with this blank. Okay, make sure that there's nothing going on over here. Nothing going on at Kennedy. We don't have a clearance, so we're just going to take off and fly our fire clearance. We're 1,200 on the squawk. When we get over the North Atlantic, if no one's talking to us all the way, we'll have to go 2,000. About 30 minutes after we coast out. We'll talk about some of the procedures as we get going. I don't know how long it's going to go. This is the good initial part, though, of the departure. Preparing us for Cross the Pond 2023. Cross the Pond 2023, sponsored by VATSIM. 1,000 slots. They've got like 500 controllers. I might be making that up. I've never actually parked over here, so we'll see how we get there. I'm just going based on landmarks. You know what I should have done, guys? I should have got my Navigraph set up. Unload, new flight, select JFK. And turned a little bit to left here. Select London Heathrow. All right. It's pretty taxiing in the blind. I know, pretty scary, huh? So I think we're up in here in the cargo's UPS. We're coming out Sierra. Going to go left on Alpha, cross the bridge, over to Charlie Echo. And he didn't seem to care, right? Here we are. Hello, taxi line. Hello. Ah, the beauty of simulated flight, right? Mr. Spastic. You know, don't downgrade what you guys do in the simulator world. In a lot of ways, it's harder than the real world because you got to do everything yourself. The hardest thing for me, as you guys all know who've been watching me, is the technology, getting things to work when sometimes they just aren't working. Okay, we're coming out, so we would contact ground. But we don't have to because there is no ground. But we'd say, Kennedy Ground, UPS 400 coming out of the cargo area on Sierra, request taxi. UPS 400 heavy. Turn left on Alpha, hold short of Victor, expect runway 22 right. And confirm you have information hotel. I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, UPS 400 heavy, we have information hotel. Left on Alpha, short of Victor, we'll expect 22 right. If you haven't flown with me, I do my own radio calls back and forth if no one's out there to talk to. Now, right, I should have in Unicom right now, right? So here's Bravo. He said left on Alpha. So I should be taxiing with Unicom. I can't remember if I did that. I did. All right, here's Alpha. That's Bravo, rather. Turn left on Alpha. Keep an eye on that frequency up there. See if somebody else might be out here. He should have said Kennedy traffic, right? Like I know what the heck I'm talking about. So we are VATSIMing it. But on Unicom, I was told that you should message what you're doing, not necessarily always make the radio calls, but I make the radio calls usually. I'll just keep an eye out for other traffic. I do have one of those aircraft identification programs, so I should be able to see the proper aircraft. I have not even, I don't know if I will be able to. A pretty standard taxi, hold short of Victor. And what they do is they cross you 31 right at Victor and turn you right on Charlie, left on Echo for 22 right. So we're going to take off. We're going to go 22 right. We'll get a heading to the left, eventually clear it on course. We'll be talking to New York on departure, New York on center, then Boston, then Moncton, and then Gander. Get our clearance from Gander. We'll actually today get our clearance via CPDLC normally. Otherwise, there's a VHF frequency. And UPS 400 heavy, you can continue, cross 31 right at Victor, right on Charlie, left on Echo. There's no one else on the whole airfield. And hold short of 22 right. UPS 400 heavy will cross 3-1 right at Victor, right on Charlie, left on Echo, hold short of 22 right. Want to try to do this from the outside? I don't know, that might be hard. So we're supposed to go up here, guys, and go up here, there. Let's try to do this looking outside. Woohoo! It's prettier, right? I don't know what you guys would rather see, inside or outside. Naturally, I'm more comfortable inside.
Approaching 13 left.
Thank you, because we clear right, clear left before we cross any runway. Remember the flight 106? Delta had to abort their takeoff. We've talked about that on other videos. There but for the grace of God, guys. There but for the grace of God. Could have been me, could have been you. It's DHL. I think it was at the UPS facility. It's gonna work? Oh yeah. I kind of like this. Maybe I'll taxi the real airplane like this. All right, there we go. And we're going to go up here. This is Charlie. We're going to go left on Echo, hold short of 22 right. Looks like there's no other traffic. So let's run the checklist. For takeoffs all complete, we go MCP and radios. Okay, be my takeoff. 224 runway heading. We'll do it in LNAV. Going to 5,000. Going to take off on Unicom. 166 is V2. Engine out is 810, and that's set. We'll plan on coming back into 22 right's the long runway. 22 left, we have standard data. There's somebody out there, regional jet. We'd run our landing data, guys, for like hydraulics or engine out, and we'd find out that at this weight, we're good to come back into either runway, but we'll plan on coming into the long runway. The exception might be, which is the one we're taking off on, if we were to blow a tire when we foughted the runway out, if they hadn't had time to clean up the runway, we'd probably just make sure we could come into 22 left. That would be our thoughts. Taxiing on out on VATSIM. So I just did a VATSIM flight from Kennedy to Bradley, Bradley back to Kennedy, carrying bagels going over, guns and aircraft parts coming back, because that's what we make in Connecticut. I live here. They make bagels in New York. And not a very good basketball team, by the way. Go Celtics. Big Boston fan here. Anyway, we're going to go left on Echo, hold short. I'd make sure our crew back there. All right. I'm going to have to do some of this Unicom stuff here soon. Okay, so I don't see him over there. And thank you to, I think it was, might have been Mark. Oh, God, I forgot to thank Mark88. Mark88, I mean, you were one of the, holy mackerel. Yeah, you got me to where I could do the VATSIM thing, too, without the V pilot. And also where I don't have that ATIS going off my head, one of you guys. So you guys, everyone, thank you so much. This makes for a much more pleasant experience. I was having to reach over to do this. It's like a one-arm paper hanger. Not that there's anything wrong with being a one-arm paper hanger, right, guys? All right, so this is Echo. This taxiway is wrong. Zulu Alpha is back there, and that's Echo. Yeah, so they have the taxiways reversed. Just go over here, guys. Yeah, UPS 400 Heavy, Kevin E. Tower, you ready for takeoff, sir? Yeah, UPS 400 Heavy, we're ready to go. UPS 400 Heavy winds 220 at 10. You are cleared for takeoff, runway 22 right. Cleared for takeoff, runway 22 right, UPS 400 Heavy. This one I should definitely make a announcement on Unicom, right? No idea where we're taxiing right now, guys. Let's take a look out here. Haha! Let's go on Unicom. Kennedy traffic, UPS 400 heavy is taking off runway 22 right. All right, let's take a look out on final here. Final is clear. I'll come back in the cockpit, do some of this pilot stuff. Yeah, it's funky, guys. Those taxiways are reversed. Echo's the one.
Approaching 22 right.
Wouldn't have known that unless you were a Kennedy-based pilot.
22 right.
All right, PMDG. This is a toga switch. It's also an auto throttle, autopilot off. Thrust set, 80 knots, coming up.
80 knots.
Check. Look across cockpit, make sure the torpedo tubes aren't clogged. Good acceleration check. Center line, center line, center line, right? Nothing but the center.
Rotate. V2.
Nice and smooth, about a 12 degrees.
Automated weather observation.
Oh,
707 Zulu. Wind 253 at 14. Visibility greater than 20.
all right. So,
2,200 scattered. 4,500 scattered. Ceiling 7,100.
I'll tell you right now, guys, I am not listening to that.
Altimeter 2.
VATSIM, no. VATSIM, no. Away you go. Let's clean it up. Now, I did put ATC down. I'll take another look at it. And we're climbing up. And what are we good for? What altitude? They usually right about in here, guys, give you a left turn. So I'm going to go heading select and left. They usually say 090. Get this out where we can see our next point. 4 for 5. UPS 400 heavy, contact departure 28.3. 128.3 for UPS 400 heavy. See you later. And departure UPS 400 heavy is out of 5 for flight for 14,000. Roger, UPS 400 heavy. Climb maintain flight level 310. Climb maintain flight level 310 for UPS 400 heavy. That is a lot of cockpit noise, isn't it? Let me see something here. All right, guys, I'm going to get us going LNAV, VNAV. And I'm just going to go, look in here, and I'm going to go direct to Putnam. Direct to Putnam. See what I'm doing? I went Putnam, execute LNAV. I'm going to come up here and click the LNAV. And we'll go VNAV, LNAV, Putnam, all the way to London Heathrow. We fly this with a 2-man crew a lot of times, if it's not backside the body, backside the clock flying. All right, I keep the heading bug slewed around. Coming up out of 10, we chime. I would do it with this one. Let them know. We'll take the lights off. My company leaves them on till 18. VATSIM community recommends 10. Kind of got clarification on that from a guy who flies VATSIM a lot. It was Guru, UKN, which I really appreciated. All right, keeping an eye on the VATSIM network, guys. I still don't see any on the vPilot. Why do I keep saying that? vPilot for the VATSIM network, still no frequencies available. Kind of a weak VATSIM flight, right? All right. Let me go in here. I'm going to go sound, options, settings, audio, volume output, negative 12. Settings, audio. I should show you what I'm doing here, so you can help me. Settings, audio, volume output minus 12. And, oh, Kennedy Ground's up now. There you go. Just popped up, but we're long since gone, baby. That would have been helpful. That would have been fun. Would have made for more insight. So that's under vPilot. Now I'm going to come up under P3D. I'm going to go sound. I want you guys to see this. Sound. And they say ATC traffic. Air traffic density, freeways only. No. I'm trying to get rid of that ATIS. Cockpit environmental. Turn on the cockpit sound a little bit, maybe. Huh. I don't know, guys. I don't know why that ATIS is transferring. So I think, make sure my mic is still working. Yes, it is. Okay, well. Sure is loud. I hope it's not as loud for you. I'll turn down my headset. I haven't had that problem. I had that problem initially, but I thought it had straightened itself out. Well, we should be on.
November 1-2, automated weather observation, 1707 Zulu, wind 253 at 14.
Yeah, so
Visibility greater than 20 miles. Sky condition.
Kennedy ATIS is up on the air now. Kennedy Ground's on the air. So somebody came to work. Okay. Oh, okay. Well, not too bad. All right, let's go standard on the altimeters. Coming up about 18. Standard. Make sure he's got standard or they've got standard. Them, us. Okay. So what I'm going to do, guys, no sense you watching this. I'm going to talk about the North Atlantic crossing. So let's go. Yeah, UPS 400 heavy, contact Boston on freaking 127.5. 127.5 UPS 400 heavy. That was Kennedy approach, departure. So we had to say heavy. But this is Boston Center. Boston Center, UPS 400 heavy is out of flight level 200 for flight level 310. UPS 400, Boston, roger, climb maintain flight level 310. Climb maintain 310, UPS 400. And UPS 400, you can clear present position direct to Tusky. Present position direct Tusky for UPS 400. Go here, Tusky, beam points, say how does that look? The other guy looks on his nav display, he goes to plan, says looks good, execute. And here we go. By going a beam, we can get a fuel fix. So we keep a little fuel log that we print out. We write the time and the fuel to see how we're running according to flight plan. Right now, this is saying, the flight plan's saying we're going to land at Heathrow at 23:23. Where I did Prague, right? 20, like there we are on legs. I went Prague. 23:23. The time is 17:15. So that's about 6 hours and 8 minutes. You got to be careful at Heathrow, guys. If you're on an eastbound flight plan, they have a 6 a.m. Curfew. You'll hear British Airways landing, but you may not be allowed to. Now, I don't know on this Cross the Pond 2023. I guess you sign up, 1,000 people sign up. 500 controllers, maybe making that up. Maybe it's 50. You basically have full ATC from start to finish. You take off, you might get a slot from DFW to London or Kennedy to Manchester, don't know. If you get fortunate enough to get a slot, you take off. You take off time, get your clearance, off you go. If someone else beats you to it and steals your call sign, you're in trouble. It's the first come, first serve. So if you don't get a slot, they're not going to give you coverage or radio calls. But if you get a slot, they will. But if you lose your call sign, so I'm going to go with UPS 400 and hope nobody else does it. Of course, one of you guys probably will, because you'll think that was pretty funny, right? Keeping an eye on the controllers and range. Right now it's just Baltimore, Kennedy, and Kennedy Atis. All grown up on VATSIM, all grown up. I think I can let my cargo buddies back up and around, right? All right, so let's do a little bit of talk here about getting our clearance. Think you'll find this interesting. You're going to need it if you do Cross the Pond 2023. I don't see our cell call, guys. Cell call is usually right down here, or it's up on the door in here, but I don't see it anywhere. Right, that's airworthy. It tells you basically your license to operate, when you bought it. No cell call, no cell call. Any cell call over there, no cell call. Because when you do cross the pond, with the Cross the Pond 2023 on the eastbound, like I said, westbound was April 1st. Sorry I missed it. Like I said, I probably wasn't ready anyway. They're going to try to cell call you. You got to verify your cell call prior to coast out. It'll pop up here. So yeah, they'll give you a cell call check on HF, and it'll pop up cell call here and cell call up here if it's good. What is our frequency going to be? I have to research that. Usually it's like Delta Papa, Fox Kilo, or Charlie Mike, Delta Lima, whatever it is, and they have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to monitor their frequency the whole time. And you can't go into the ETOPS area track system without a cell call knowingly inoperative. There's 30 for 31. By the way, is the after takeoff climb check complete? There they are. There's a cruise check and after takeoff climb, but they don't have it on the PMGG 777. All right, we're leveling at 31. We'll talk about the getting the clearance, and then I'll pause the recording and let this thing fly itself. I'll have to stay here in case VATSIM comes up. You guys are lucky you can take a break. I don't think you want to sit here for 6.5 hours with me. That's a lot of stories, which I can tell. I can tell you 6.5 hours of stories. Ask my kids. So, all right, so let's take a minute and let's talk about your clearance. Silence. I'll keep an eye on the VATSIM network via vPilot up here, and you guys watch this. Here's our route of flight. Generally, our route of flight. These are the North Atlantic tracks. They change every day based on the winds. Once they close, this is westbound, by the way. We'd be going eastbound from Kennedy to JFK. I just took this out of a publication online. But these are Alpha through Golf. Sometimes they have half tracks, which I was talking to you about. But there's certain equipment that you have to enter these tracks. Not everyone can do it because the reduced vertical separation is 1,000 feet of aircraft going this way. It used to be 2,000, right? Now it's 1,000, and they tighten the tracks up a little. They've even gone to half tracks that are only 30 miles apart. Very. I don't know what he's talking about. Let me get rid of that, guys. I get ground soon. 21.9, so we'll try 22.8 again, guys. We'll do our VATSIM duty. All right, so we're going to take off. This is a simulated weather. We actually don't have any. This is an old one. This comes off a weather app. This is called a random route because see how it touches the track that doesn't on a track. A lot of times if you're off schedule, when we all launch the fleet and we've got 60 airplanes going at once or 160 airplanes, there's slot times and you stay on the tracks. But when you're off schedule, it's called a random if it doesn't stay on a track. So we took off out of Kennedy, went to New York departure, usually right to Boston Center. Boston Center, we stopped using the heavy call sign. Boston Center up in here, as we approach the Canadian border, is going to change us over to Moncton. When we contact Moncton, we tell them that we're CPDLC, which is the automatic position reporting, and that we're heavy. So it's Moncton UPS 400 heavy, flight level 310, CPDLC. Roger, UPS 400 heavy is Moncton. Thank you. That's it. And then, so that's it. So it goes from Tower to departure to Boston Center usually, or New York Center maybe, Boston Center, Moncton, Gander. Now Gander has domestic and Gander has Oceanic. So it's kind of confusing sometimes, just like New York has it. New York has domestic and it also has air rink, which is over water. The domestic is ATC. You guys are all familiar with that. Air rink is a guy, he has no radar. He's sitting in front of a board and he's basically just sequencing aircraft, giving them altitude clearances and times to enter the track system based on their filed routing. We get our clearance at different points. It depends where we're going. Today, or we're going to go up into Gander and eventually over to Shanwick. However, if we took off and we're going, let's say we're going down to New Delhi. Let's say we're going down to Madrid or Barcelona, or even over to some of the Italian destinations, Rome or Athens, Greece. We might stay down lower depending on the winds. These are the eastbound tracks, by the way. Those are the westbounds. This is the ETOPS airspace, Extended Over Water Program airspace. If you're more than 435 miles from a suitable alternate, which here we used St. John's and Shanwick, if you're in this area where there's white, you have entered an area that you have to have ETOPS equipment. It's much more strict. I mentioned one of them, CPDLC, or you have to, before entering, or working altimeter, obviously, 2 working FMCs. There's a bunch of them. It's a whole different minimum equipment list if you're going to go in this white area. That's ETOPS airspace. These circles indicate the limits that you don't need it. That's 435 miles from Stevensville. Let me show you something. St. John's. So CYYT, if you put a 435 mile circle around it, let me extend this out. I think we might be too far to see it. That's the start of it. If you get out on the other side, not this side because we'll be in Gander's airspace, if you get more outside that circle on the other side, you've entered ETOPS, Extended Over Water Program, and you have to have different equipment. So if it failed and you're in there, you couldn't enter that airspace without it. There's certain equipment. Once you're in the airspace, what are you going to do, right? So anyway, that's that one. And on the other side, our alternate might be, we'll set the other one up, BIKF, which is Keflavik. It is usually our en route alternate, and that might be 435. That's a suitable alternate today based on the weather. On the other side, it's based off Shannon, even though that's not one of our emergency airfields today, because that's the westernmost point, 435 miles. Let me show you again. So this is the one. There's Keflavik. There's Shannon. That's the 435 mile circle. That's a 435 mile circle. And this is St. John's 435 mile circle. So as long as you're within those pink circles, you are not extended over water. Once you cross that, which is with those circles I was showing you, those 435 mile circles in this area, that's ETOPS airspace. If you're going to enter that, you got to have the correct equipment. If you're in here and for some reason you've had a degraded, you just have to advise ATC that you've lost one of your transponders or your autopilot or something. But you don't enter here without an autopilot, transponder, dual FMCs, etc. Reporting TCAS system. There's a bunch of them. But once you're in here, you just got to advise them. Anyway, that's ETOPS. You'll hear it talked about. Extended over water. The white area is ETOPS. Hope that's clear. See the 777-200. That's the distance, 435. If If you're in an Airbus, and if some of you guys plan on flying that program with a Neo or something, you might have a different numbers because you're slower aircraft. All right, these are the different sectors. We took off over here in New York. We immediately entered New York Air Rank, which is where this little rectangle is. There's Gander. That's Reykjavik up here. That's VHF, not HF. Gander is HF. New York starts off at 29.9 in VHF, ends up in HF. Santa Maria is HF and VHF. Shanwick is HF. And you get on the other side, it's Shannon. Shanwick, you'll hear, and Shannon. So we're going to fly. We're going through Boston Center. We'll contact Moncton when we reach end of U.S. airspace with the heavy call sign. Tell them we're CPDLC. Fly with Moncton for a while. They'll turn us over to Gander because today our flight's taking us up into this Gander Oceanic. Somewhere an hour and a half prior to our coast out point, which I'll talk about, we would get our clearance via CPDLC or by radio. It usually comes up on our printer. Cannot enter Gander or Shanwick's airspace without your clearance. You'd have to either go back or enter holding. And at 30 west, this is 30 west, so this is 50 west, 40 west, 30 west, you're into Shanwick's airspace. So when we get up here, if we had to make contact, when we make contact with Gander for the HF freaks, it'd be Gander UPS 400 heavy, CPDLC, Shanwick next, request the HF frequencies. And they will say UPS 400 heavy, Roger, copy, Shanwick's next. Contact Gander, Oceanic on 2789, backup frequency 5614. 2789, 5614 for UPS 400 heavy. Yes, sir. And at 30 West, contact Shanwick primary 6622, backup 5550. 30 West, Shanwick 6622, backup 5520. So then you go off from Gander domestic, Gander Oceanic, get your frequencies, and you come back in, you put your radio freak set up with guard on the left, I'll show you that later, and common on the right, which is 2345, 12345, and you go over to HF radios and you get your cell call checked. Let's see how to do that. I'm just checking the VATSIM. Okay, nothing. That's weather deviations. So you're flying along, you get your Oceanic clearance, but now you're coming up on weather. You can't just go wherever you want. If you're going to go within you want to try to always get weather deviation. You can go about 1 to 2 miles right of course. We call it slopping. It's offset procedure, just so we're not all flying on top of each other. You go 1 to 2. So I might be going at 1, you're at 2, and other guys at 0 because we're all flying right next to each other, so we don't get each other's wake turbulence. That's called slop. It also, big sky theory, keeps you from hitting each other. But if it's a random, we tend not to offset. But if you want to deviate for weather, you can go outside that too. You can go up to 5. But you got to remain at the assigned ATC flight level. In no communication, if clearance is denied or no communication is established, you always try to get weather deviation outside of 2. You call up Gander on either through CPDLC or Oceanic, and you say, Gander, I know you just type it in your box, or you say, Gander, Oceanic, UPS 400 on 2250. Just go ahead. Yes, sir. Request weather deviation 10 miles south of course, right of course for weather. Stand by. It takes him a while. He coordinates. He comes back and he goes, UPS 400 heavy. You are clear to deviate up to 20 miles right of course for weather. Report back on course. Or they might say, be back on course by a certain time. If it's done through the box, it's all automatic. And you just report back on an automatic. If it's done through the radios, which we did for decades in my career, that's a whole other story. But let's say you can't get a hold of them, right? But if you get clearance, you don't have to climb or descend. But if you've got to deviate and it's 5 miles and you can't get a clearance, 5 miles or less, stay at your flight level. In this case, 310. But if you're going to go deviate and you can't get clearance, if you can't get clearance, stay at your altitude. If you can't get clearance and you got to go more than 5 miles, you got to either climb or descend depending on where you are. I call it North Dakota, South Carolina. If you're deviating north of the course, you descend. See that? No matter whether east or westbound. If you're deviating south of course, either east or west, you climb 300 feet. North Dakota, South Carolina. I remember that because one of my daughters went to University of South Carolina down in Columbia, so I always remember South Carolina. Then I can remember North Dakota. North Dakota. So if you're deviating north, you climb. If you're deviating south, which way are you going to deviate? Well, it depends on the weather, right? But you know, if it doesn't matter and you got to deviate, yeah, just remember these numbers anyway. But if you have clearance, don't bother. If you don't have clearance, if you're less than 5 miles, state your altitude. This might come up, guys, in the Across the Pond 2023 eastbound in October. Anyway, that's how you do it. So airspace. How do you know where you're going to go? We have a plotting chart that we use. This one, see how we're staying well south of Gander? We're going to go on this one from New York, taking off out of New York. We get our Oceanic on the ground. All they give us is our Mach and our flight level down here with New York because we're already talking to them, right? And then we go to Santa Maria way over here at 30 West. But if you're in this little area, take a look in here. This is Gander. There's a little thing and it says this area is delegated by New York to Gander. Sometimes just because you see yourself plotted south, you guys might run into this on Across the Pond. If you see yourself filed just south of Gander, you say, oh, I'm going to be with New York. And you think you've already got your clearance. No, because once you enter this area, this little area in here, so if you're going over Bob 2, is delegated by New York to Gander. So you would have to actually get your Oceanic through Gander Center. So it doesn't really, just because you're south of the Gander Oceanic, if you're up near that line, you better check your plotting chart, make sure you're not in an area delegated, it'll say that, from New York to Gander. And that occurs up north too. You have some Reykjavik delegated by Gander. There's other areas like that. So you got to really take a look at those charts to see if there's an area that you're entering. This is from the plotting chart. This is from your JFJ, which is our computerized application. It'll show you if you're about to enter an area. So it gets a little confusing. But if you're going eastbound out of New York on this Across the Pond 2023 and you're staying south of Gander, you're going to get your clearance on the ground. All they give you is your Mach and your level going across. If you enter Gander, you're going to need more. You're going to need your full Oceanic clearance once you're airborne. Start looking for it 90 minutes prior. And you have to have it, I think, 30 minutes prior to coast out, or else you got to contact them by voice. And this is a drift down. What about if you're out over the ocean and you lose? I'm just going over this now, guys, because I'm going to put you on pause. We'll review it later. And you lose an engine. You guys can screenshot this. It's available. Everyone has it now, but take a look. What you do is you've lost an engine. If it's depressurization, right, you got to get down. So you turn, get outside of 5 miles, try to maintain your altitude for 5 miles, get outside of 5 miles, dive down to 10,000 feet over the ocean with speed brakes, idle speed brake max. But if it's not a depressurization, it's an engine loss, which is more likely than depressurization. What you do is on the CDU, you press route, offset 5, so route, and you go 5 right. I think it might be a right 5 rather. Right 5. Execute it. It starts turning. You put 20,000 in here, but don't arm it. That's your drift down altitude. Airplane will slowly start to slow down. You come in here, VNAV, and you activate your engine out. Let's do it again. Just lost an engine. You're on a North Atlantic track. You can't just start descending. This guy's right below you. So you're going to try to maintain your altitude. If it's explosive depressurization, stay at your altitude, get 5 miles, mayday, 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 yelling on the radios, and then dive on down. Not yelling. And dive on down to 10,000 once you're past 5. Engine out, maintain your altitude by going route, right 5, execute. You're in LNAV, so it's going to turn over there. It'll start slowing, go VNAV. Engine out, activate your engine out speed. Put 20,000, that's your starting point, because your engine out altitude is, just thinking about it, 24.8. So you could actually level at 20. We're pretty light. You could level, and there's your engine out speed. But if we put in 20 because that's a good safe altitude, unless you're on the Delhi flight where it's up at 18.6, that's a good place to start. So let's go back to let's go back here to our little handy dandy cheat sheet. I actually keep this on laminated copy in the cockpit when I leave, so if anything happens, the guys know what to do. Not that they don't know what to do anyway. So on the CDU, you press root, R5, execute, LNAV in the FMA, which we already were in. Set MCP to 20. Do not push it. On the CDU, press VNAV, select engine out and execute. Check VNAV speed in the FMA. Exterior lights on, seatbelt lights on. Right now the aircraft's bleeding off speed because your engine out. And going over to the 5, it's going to get there really quickly, especially if you're slopped right, 2 degrees. Remember, 2 miles for traffic? You already slopped. You only got 3 miles to go. You're there in a minute. When able, advise ATC via CPDLC, SATCOM. The other aircraft in here, once we coast out, we have 21.5 over here and 23.45, which is common. That's guard. And we'll be squawking 2,000 once we're 30 minutes out. Still don't have a squawk. I hope you guys are liking this. I'll probably do it in 2 segments. When established on an offset on the CDU, press VNAV and then company speed and execute. What company speed is, once you're on the offset, you're 5 miles off, clear of traffic, you call in Mayday, you're maintaining your altitude, 31,000, wherever you're at, get your 5 miles off. Now you go, you're at engine out speed. Now you can get right down to altitude, get down below the tracks using 0.84 and 230. The idea is get down below the tracks, descend below 29. There's a prevailing thought out there that the military are operating down to 2021, get down below 21, get down to 18 or so. Get down below 29, let's say 28.5. In our case, though, our engine out altitude is 24.5, so we'd have to go down to 24.5. Now, if you can get a clearance somewhere there, you can turn right direct or down. If you get down below the track systems from 28.5 and below, you can start turning towards Keflavik or Shannon or Gander or wherever your vert alternate is. That's it. It's a good cheat sheet. All right, guys, so here we are. Tusky is Moncton, and Moncton's on 34.8. We would sign on to CPDLC with Moncton, which is CZQM, and they would say, it would pop up, whoop, you're in contact, and Tusky's only 113 miles away. Should we be trying to get our ATC clearance? Let's see. Jupy is our entry point. It's at 1912. Jupy, 1912. We're at 1738. Remember I told you 90 minutes prior, you could, if you tried to do it 91 minutes prior, it would say unable, you're too early. So 90 minutes prior to 1531 is 1621? 1721? No, 1621. No, it's not Tusky, it's Jupy. So 1912, guys, I'm sorry. 1912. So 90 minutes prior would be 1742. So we're actually coming up on that. We're at 1739. So Jupy, yep, 90 minutes prior is 1742. We could start it, we could put it in our box and fill it all out, send it off at 90 minutes prior. It would come back and it would say, clearance request received, stand by. If no contact 30 minutes prior to Jupy, use VHF radios. So, but usually about 30 minutes later, a clearance rolls in and we do a cross-check procedure of the routing within the cockpit. So at Tusky, we're going to be going over to Moncton. They're nothing other than a bunch of good guys. They're vectoring into Gander's airspace. We fly into Gander's airspace. They usually want a 50 west estimate. That's Gander domestic. We're still UPS 400 heavy. Then finally, when you're getting close to Jupy, they'll send you over to Gander Oceanic on 2735 on VHF. You'll tell them your CPDLC, Shanwick is next. Request the HF freaks. They'll tell you the HF freaks. You'll go over to the HF freaks, get the cell call, and set up your radios. 21.5, 23.45. And when you're 30 minutes past Jupy, you put in 2000 on your squawk. You'll get the new squawk on the other side. And the CPDLC will automatically send Gander position reports. If not, at 50 West and 40 West, you're going to give a position report. Look up the position report format, but basically it would be, if you had to give a manual one, let's say it was Jupy, it would be Gander UPS 400 on frequency 2722 with a position. UPS 400 heavy. Gander, go ahead. UPS 400 heavy. Jupy 1922, flight level 310, estimating 49 north, 050 west, 1922. Next is 51 north, 040 west, fuel on board 108.9. He'd repeat that to you. If you got CPDLC working, you don't have to do any of that. All you would have to do is get a cell call check on voice, HF, with Shanwick at 30 West. Used to be, we had to do this all by voice, not until not too long ago, maybe 10 years ago, and it was noisy and it was hard to get a word in edgewise. So it goes, the format is position point, so Jupy, time, altitude. Then it's next, place, time, not altitude. Then it's next, just the point. So it decreases from 3 to 2 to 1. So it's Jupy, time plus flight level, 4950, just time, and then 5140. Then give them the fuel. You should know that before you do the North Atlantic clearance. If you go to the VATSIM page for the procedures, there's people there to help you. There's publications to help you. So if you want to start getting ready, we'll talk about it going forward, but that's one way to do it. All right. Let's see where we are. Hold on. When we get to Tusky, Boston Center would say, yeah, UPS 400, contact Moncton on frequency 127.3. Have a good day. UPS 400 heavy. Thanks a lot, Boston. 27.3. Moncton, UPS 400 heavy, CPDLC, flight level 310. Yeah, good evening, UPS 400 heavy. It's Moncton. Radar contact. That's it. Say good evening. Go over, get down the right ways. They would turn us over to Gander somewhere in there. Jupy's our coast out. 90 minutes prior to Jupy, 1742. Right about now, actually, we could send for clearance. If unable, we'd have to revert to voice, and they'll give you a frequency. I forget what it's on your track message that comes with your flight plan. So the frequency for VHF. I wonder if they gave us a track message. Let's take a look at that. Want to? Yes, you do. Yes, you do. View PDF. I didn't actually look at this, guys. Could go through the flight plan some other time. That's your closeout that you get. Let me see here. I'm just looking to see if they gives a track message. These are our ETOPS entry points that I discussed with you. This one is they're using today Stevensville, Keflavik, and usually in Shannon. Stevensville, Keflavik, and Shannon as your en route alternates. There's your climb wind, your winds, IKO flight plan, track message. Here it is. We're not on a track, but we're in a random. Otherwise, we would have to be checking this in operations, checking this against our clearance and all that. Right down here, track message number. They may ask you for that. It's 123 on this case. TMI, track message number. Have that ready to go when you talk on this cross the pond thing, that you have track message number 123. So they may say, Shanwick or Gander may say, you're cleared via track Victor, and state the track message number. Roger, UPS 400 is track message number 123, track Victor. That way you don't have to read it to them. If you don't have the track message number, you'd have to read it all to them. But what if you can't contact them? Let me see if they put the frequency in here. Yeah, clearance delivery frequency. If you can't get them, these are the coast out points. And what you have to do is look on your chart and see which sector you're in, and these are your clearance frequencies. Otherwise, guess who has it? Moncton. Moncton can. That's honestly, it's the easiest way. Say Moncton. What's Gander Oceanic using for VHF? Yeah, 23.95. But if you want to look it up, because it's not easy sometimes finding all these points on your plotting chart, but you could ask them for the Gander thing. If they want to be a little ahead on VATSIM and say, look it up, it's on the track message in your flight plan, and you got to compare that against the North Atlantic plotting chart for the points that are there, which you probably don't have. So anyway, I got to study up and how they're going to do this. It's interesting. Pretty cool, huh? All right, so they'd hand us over to Moncton here, and I'll come back in. You know what? I think that's a good enough lesson for lesson 1, right? Because we've been doing this stuff for an hour 21 already. We'll do the Oceanic portion some other time. That's a good introduction, though. All right, guys. It's Father Time flying his UPS bird. I appreciate you guys. We have a great little community. Let's make it quiet. If you wouldn't mind subscribing, that'd be great. If you would like to join our Discord, Benchy set that up for me. I'm learning it. You guys know better than me. I'm 64 years old, so big steep learning curve. Join our Discord. It'll be in the link below. I had a problem with it timing out before. I fixed that. Somebody helped me with that. Told me how to make sure it doesn't time out. Go on there. Benchy will talk to you. I'll talk to you. We'll get everyone started. Eventually build it up. Got 500 and something subscribers now. On our way to a bigger operation. I love this. I really appreciate you guys. You take really, really, really good care of me. And I got to tell you, this flight sim community is awesome, but in particular, our community seems to be wonderful. So I'll take good care of you. I promise you. That's what this is all about. I'm loving this stuff. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not going to ever make money on this stuff, but I sure am in it for the fun and the hobby. All right, so that's enough of that, and I'll do more on the North Atlantic stuff later on. That's just an initial introduction to it. All right, Father Time's out. Thanks, guys.